We get that little chunk of money. We put it deposited into these bank accounts and we start pulling out cash.
Mm-hmm.
Which works out fine because we got a bunch of accounts and we're pulling out little amounts, 7,000, 5,000, 8,000. And, I would cash checks against her accounts and they would call her to verify, is there someone here trying to cash a check for $9,000? Can you verify the payee? And they go, oh yeah, that's Scott Cugno. Oh, okay. Thank you. And they cash the check. These are new accounts.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks odd, but I open the account. So what ends up happening is, we're cashing them. And I remember getting really frustrated because it was just taking forever. And I had gone into a bank one time and, they have banks where that they actually cash like large checks. Like if you go into Bank of America and you try and cash a check for $15,000 or $25,000, they probably won't do it. They'll tell you, we don't have that much cash on hand. We don't this, we don't that. They have certain banks that do that. So they told me where one of those was. I went there. I had a check for like $29,000 that had been cut on a closing for Michael Shanahan. Remember, I refinanced Michael Shanahan's. And I've got a check for $29,000 that was issued to Scott Cugno. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting in the bank. I go in there. I say, I need to cash this. And she says, you're going to have to talk to the manager. I go, okay. She says, go sit down over there. I go sit down in the little glass cubicle. He comes over and he says, I see you're trying to cash this check. And I was like, right. He goes, why don't you just deposit in your own bank? And I went, my bank is a credit union or something. And it's in like Florida. Like they'll hold this thing for like 2 weeks. Like I need the money now. I have people I need to pay. He's like, well, I'm not sure. And I was like, well, it's fine. It's a cashier's check. Like it's good. Mm-hmm. And he goes, no, it's good. It's good. You have the money. And he's like, yeah, we have the money. He said, it's just odd. Hold on. He goes back in the back and he comes back and he says, where'd you get the check? Cashier's check. I said, it was a cashier's check. It was drawn off of a closing for somebody's property that we're doing. The company I work for, we're putting on an addition on. Okay, that makes sense. Comes back and, well, why do you need cash? And I was like, I'm cashing guys' checks that work for the company. Like there's a lot of these guys that are like Mexican guys. They give them a check. They go to a check cashing company or they get charged 5-10%. So I cashed them. I'm like, I don't what? The check's good, right? And he's like, yeah, we're just trying to verify some stuff. And he went, yeah, hold on. And he leaves again. And I remember my cell phone rang and I pick up the phone. It's Becky. She goes, what are you doing? What's taking so long? I go, the guy's being a jerk. He doesn't want to give me the money. Oh, she's like, oh my God, get out of the bank. Get out of the bank. And I went, I can't get out of the bank. The guy's got my ID. He's got my credit card, my ID, and the check for $29,000. Like he's going to call the police if I just jump up and run. Mm-hmm. And I go, look, don't call me again. I'll let you know. It'll be fine. Hang up the phone. She calls back. Same conversation. I'm bouncing on the walls. I'm going crazy. It'll be fine. Hang up the phone. He comes back out and he goes, he said, I said, hey, what's taking so long? And he goes, we're trying to get in touch with Michael Shanahan to verify the check. That's not good for me. Yeah. Like I'm thinking, right. Okay. And he walks away. The phone rings. It's Becky. What's going on? I go, they're trying to get a hold of Michael Shanahan. She goes, oh my God. And I'm like, oh my God. And I remember thinking I shouldn't have left her the keys. There's a good chance I run out of this place and she's not there.
But by the way, when you're sitting there, you're who? Scott? You're Scott?
I'm Scott Cugno.
And then
the other guy
calling Michael Shanahan. Okay.
Right. They're saying they're trying to get in touch with Michael Shanahan. So then the phone rings. My cell rings again. And I look and it's not Becky's. Yeah. Not Becky. So I pick up the phone. I go, hello. And she says, hi, this is Kim. Is it from SunTrust Bank? Is this Michael Shanahan? So I'm like, yes, it is Michael Shanahan. And she says, there's a guy here. He's trying to cash a check. It's very large. Could you verify the payee? And I go, sure. It's Scott Cugno. I said, I believe the amount's $29,000. And she goes, that's right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I said, okay. I said, hey, by the way, how'd you get my number? This is my cell number. And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. We called the title company and the title company gave us your phone number. Mm-hmm. Well, I closed those loans. That's my cell. That's why if they'd looked in any other way, they could have gotten in touch with the real Michael Shanahan.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, oh, okay, hang up the phone.
You answered the phone from the bank while sitting in the bank
as
Michael
Scott
pretending to be Mike.
So I just verified the check myself.
As Matthew pretending to be Scott, as pretending to be Michael.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wait there, terrified still. They come out about 2 minutes later. The manager comes out, plus a woman. I'm assuming maybe that was Kim. She never said anything. And she walks out and she says, and he counts out the money twice, 29,000. And I stand up and I'm like shoving the money in my pockets. Like I'm trying to get out of there so quick. I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm thinking this whole thing is feels bad. And I'm getting up and I'm starting to walk out of the bank, and he goes, he said, excuse me, Mr. Cugno? And I said, yes, sir. I turn around and he goes, I'd like you to know that I feel very apprehensive about this transaction. And I go, really? What is it exactly? He goes, I can't put my finger on it. And I go, it'll come to you. And I turn around and I just bolt right out of there. And so keep in mind, a week or so later, the Secret Service shows up.
Mm-hmm.
Did you cash a check for $29,000? So what's so funny is like that was one of the last checks we cashed. So we ended up with like $400,000.